La la la. Welcome, Drink with James, episode 75. We are now, I think, on week 2 of the mustache, which I thought I was going to shave off immediately after my costume, which you guys saw in the last video. If you haven't seen it, I'm dressed as Daniel Plainview from There Will Be Blood in the last Drink with James. But it has had a positive reaction, which is either true and people think like, hey, you should keep the mustache, or everybody in my life is fucking with me and trolling me and telling me it looks great, so I keep it and walk around looking like an idiot. So maybe you guys won't lie to me. Tell me, should I keep the stash? Should I lose the stash? Let me know. We've had an exciting week here at 4Card. We launched our top influencer brand mention tool. So I don't know if you guys saw this. This would have been yesterday, which was what? Wednesday? Tuesday?
Yes.
Anyway, I don't know if y'all saw last week, but we looked at impressions across Instagram for our influencers and split it into 7 different following ranges, 0 to 5,000, 5,000 to 25,000, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we looked at those ranges and found the top influencer for 350 different brands in those ranges. We've gotten hundreds of people that posted them. Brands are super excited, influencers are excited. It gives you guys a way to brag, which we love, and we're always there to help you guys do that. So let us know, if you got one of those, hit us up, let us know. If not, I think it's a good reason to go and give coverage to some of those brands that you really love and really want to work with. Give them organic coverage. You might get top influencer for the month, post that, they see it. Maybe it helps you work with them in the future. Well, it's fall, so it's fall suit season, which is very exciting. What's maybe more exciting is we just closed the female version of or arm of Suit Supply as a client, and one of our salespeople negotiated a free suit for every woman in the office. So they are going to all be in like fucking power suits, and we're gonna take a photo. It's gonna be amazing. So I'm super excited to like have our office look like an 80s like hedge fund or something. There's some nice ones. Anyway, okay. How do I go about pitching brands in my niche? So let's say you're a niche influencer, and specifically talking about pitching brands in her niche or using her niche to pitch brands.
She said, how do I go about pitching brands with my niche?
With my niche. Okay, so how do you go? So you have a niche. It's a little bit different than what other people do. That is a huge opportunity. If you have that, I think that yes, it will potentially be harder for you to get work. So let's take your petite blogger for instance. You will make sense for less campaigns, certainly, across the board. But I do think that if you leverage it correctly, you can use it to, one, probably get more money than you would get if you weren't operating in a niche, and 2, maybe be able to close deals that you wouldn't be able to close if you had your same following level, but you weren't speaking to a specific niche. So I think if you can prove that your following is following you because of the niche that you're speaking to, that's really powerful. Let's say there's 10 other petite bloggers in the world that are really big and that are doing a good job. The competition is so much less for you, and because there's less influencers speaking to that, I think you have the ability to tell a story of like, hey, I am an expert in this field and I am respected and I am one of the people that is like most looked up to here. And I think most brands would be willing to hear that story and they would understand it. So I think it's just, you understand, if you're working in that niche, you should understand that audience really well. You should be able to tell a story about how, even though your following might be a little smaller than some other people's, it's super, super targeted and super dedicated. And you should, the theory would be, and I would think that this would be true, is that you would have the ability to, you would have the ability to essentially influence people more effectively than somebody who wasn't operating in a niche. Because if you look at another normal influencer, they might be following you because they like their style, or they like their hair, or they like the way they shoot their photos, or whatever it might be. But if you are super specific on a niche, it's like, this is why people follow it. People are following me because I am a petite blogger. That is the reason they follow me. I'm going to speak to this audience that is super interested in this, that struggles with finding clothes for petite women. I'm going to speak to them about your product. They're all going to go crazy for it. Should be an easy pitch, should be able to use it to your advantage. But the reality is there are less campaigns in the world that you will be okay, like you will make sense for. But that's totally fine. Your conversion rates on the ones you do make sense for should be a little bit higher. So.
And how do you get the more money out of that?
I think you get the more money out of it because there's not as much supply, you know? So it's difficult for you because you have to create demand, maybe where it doesn't exist as much as not having a niche, but there's less supply. So, you know, and I think conversions should be pretty good, you know? So I think you should be able to tell that story of like, look, there's only a few places in the world that people can go for this kind of advice, and I am one of those people, and I'm the best at it. So ipso, what is it, ipso facto, is that correct usage? Ipso facto, pay me more. Okay, good?
Yeah.
Okay. How will original non-sponsored content ever see the light of day in Instagram's push for paid advertising? It's a good question. I don't think Facebook will ever do to Instagram what it did to Facebook. I don't think it's going to make it so that you have to pay to see your photos. Facebook wasn't built as a platform to share photos. That was a huge part of Facebook. It continues to be a big part of Facebook, but Facebook is a tool to connect with other people. It was a social network to try and kind of map out the world. That's their focus. Instagram is literally just a place where people go to try and look at photos and to be inspired and to follow people that they find inspiring, but also check in on their family. I don't see them emphasizing paid advertising so much that they do something like Facebook did. And I don't see them working directly with influencers either, because it's a much smaller piece of the pie than just paid advertising for brands. So I think that organic content will continue to do well. I think Instagram knows that it needs to keep having that authentic, organic content in people's face every day. Again, as we said in a prior video, Instagram engagement rates are at an all-time high. People are liking the photos, they're engaging with it. They're doing that because they're seeing organic, authentic stuff that they want to see. So I don't think it's as big of a problem as maybe people let on. But I also could be wrong. Instagram could change next week and you could have to pay for people to see your posts. Again, that would surprise me quite a bit, because the opportunity for them is so much bigger to continue to stay dominant than to try and squeeze a little bit more money out of the platform at the risk of potentially losing people from it. They can't have that. They can't have people start going to another platform. I don't know if you saw Snapchat's earnings report come out. I don't know if you guys are reading earnings reports, but Snapchat's earnings report came out recently, yesterday. Stock was down 25-30%. It got fucking killed. The reason it got killed is they only added 5 million new people to the platform, and time on, time on the app, like average weekly use, isn't growing in the way that they expected to. Nothing kills the stock price faster than a dip in usage. So Instagram, I would think, the continued focus is usage. Get people fucking using the app more, which is why you see them launching less new advertising tools, and every week it seems like they're coming out with new tools to get you on the app more, to get you using it, to get you publishing more content. That will continue to be their focus, I think. Okay, next one is an interesting question. What's the future of retail? This is something that is constantly talked about, and I am not a retail expert, so I will not answer the question exactly. I think as it pertains to y'all, as it pertains to influencers, I don't, I think there's a general culling of physical retail. I do think that physical retail for the, near and moderate future is going to exist. I don't think you're going to have a New York City without Soho and without stores, and people still enjoy shopping. I mean, that's what, at least in New York, this is what people do on the weekends. They just go to brunch and then they go shopping. That will always exist because I think it's an enjoyable experience to go shop, especially in luxury, because the shops are really nice. And now, a lot of the new startups and stuff, even if it's inexpensive, the stores feel special and luxury. And I think that if anything, that is, people are continuing to invest in experiences, and it's not just about going in and buying a Balenciaga bag or buying Outdoor Voices leggings or piece of away luggage. It's what do you do in that store when you're doing that? Again, because this is entertainment. So if you go into a Way store and it's got all these travel books and it's got beautiful couches you can sit on and it's got, travel videos playing or something, and you go, into a Balenciaga and they serve you champagne, this is all part of the experience. And I think that, if anything, for influencers, it's thinking about what we talk about all the time, which is always focusing on providing value. You go into Balenciaga potentially to buy a Balenciaga bag, but you want to leave feeling like that was worth it, that you got a $3,000 experience out of that. Because if not, you would just order it online. So if somebody's following you, if we can try and relate that to what y'all are doing, it's thinking about, providing that value every day. And do people see your post and roll their eyes because it's, your 6th sponsored post of the week and it's for some brand that makes no sense for you? Or do they feel like they're getting value? Are they sending the post to their friends being like, check this out, this is amazing? That should be your marker for success. People really excited and really engaged in what you're doing. Again, I think the motivations are skewed too heavily towards monetary reward, meaning success. That will come if you're producing value, if you're providing value, and that should be your first focus. Because again, if you walk into a luxury, you walk into Bergdorf or Balenciaga or Gucci, you get value even without buying something. You walk around the store, it's beautiful, you get to look at things, you get to touch them, you get to sit down. Whatever it is that you're doing, that store is giving you value before you even buy anything. So you should think about that. Think about what you're giving back to your users. Think about what you're giving back to your followers. We look at engagement on sponsored posts and it's pretty consistent. I personally, a lot of times, am feeling like there's way too much sponsored content. And I understand that 4Card is a big part of that. And it's not that I don't think brands should be doing this. I don't think it's spread out enough amongst the enormous pool of amazing, talented influencers. I think that brands are too often continuing to work with the same people over and over again, and I don't know at what point somebody's feed no longer is believable. But for me, if it's 50% sponsored, it's just hard for me to take you seriously as a person that I'm getting advice from, because I can't be sure your motivations for that. And I can't imagine 15 brand partnerships a month or 20 brand partnerships a month, you being able to do a really good job with those and make them really authentic and make them really helpful and meaningful. And you have to look at the optics of it. How does that feel for your followers? Do they feel like they're being given what they signed up for when they followed you? Because when they followed you, you probably weren't doing 20 sponsored posts a month. So think about that. Now that you're doing 20 or 15 or 10 or 5 sponsored posts a month, are you providing more value to those followers than you were months ago? Or are those followers giving you value because every new follower you have is more money that you can charge a brand. So you're cashing in on them. Are you giving them value back? You're giving your brands value. That's really important. Your clients are getting value. But what about the people who got you there? Because once they leave, you're kind of fucked. So that's a good place to end. Once you lose your audience, you're fucked. Cheers.